Okay. All right. 10 people, man. 10 people. Huh. Well. Nice little Saturday night. What's up, guys? Everybody? To my faithful 10. Huh. I don't know what happened. For a while there, I was getting 13,000 views on these. Now I'm lucky to have 1,000 now. It's crazy. That's all right. It's all right. They can do whatever they want. It's gonna backfire on them in the end. So, and I get to practice. I said a long time ago. Remember that the fact that they're not debating me on this issue is not a detriment. It's actually an advantage, because that means that I control the narrative. They don't. That means I get to come out here and I get to say the things that are true, because as long as I'm speaking the truth, they can't do anything about it. They can't come and arrest me, because if they did, then I just tell the jury that here's the truth. They're traitors, and then the jury would find me not guilty because I was just speaking the truth, and then I could use that not guilty verdict to say, okay, well, now I'm found not guilty because these judges are traitors, bound to exist because of this jury. See, they really can't do anything to me, and it's funny because we do have that power. See, that was my original strategy in this trial that I had years and years ago, the one that I went to prison on. But see, what happened was that these guys found out about my strategy because I was dumb enough to continue to trust my ex-wife. And so before the trial started, I had the plan. God put it in my heart what we were going to do, and I wrote a letter to her, sent it out, and I'm like, Jen, I got this under control. You just got to trust me. I got it. And I explained to her the whole strategy, and sent it to her. And of course, the next day I'm in the court in a hearing, and that her attorney, this guy, I don't remember his name was, but this guy, he had the paper. He had also photocopied, giving it to the prosecutor, photocopied, giving it to the judge, and they were reading it as I was coming up, and it was funny because that day, part of what I said in there is that when the judge asks you if you've been threatened or intimidated, or any promise has been made to get you to plead guilty, that judge can't ask you that, because the judge represents the very same body doing the threatening as the one asking if you've been threatened, which makes the plea non-enforceable. You see, I said all of this within this letter that went out, and that particular day, this judge, which was the same judge that I've been using, Judge Rung, and by the way, she recused herself this day. She didn't want to fuck with me anymore. But I remember when I got up, she just had these huge eyes, right? Like she just was so, because they knew that they were to lose on this strategy. When they got that letter and they read it, and they read what I was planning on doing, they knew that they were in trouble, which I'll tell you what happened then. But this particular day, I had been in jail for 8 months, a year, maybe even at this point. And every single time someone would plead guilty, they would always ask the same question: have you been threatened, or has any promise been made to get you to plead guilty? They say no. Okay, great, we accept your plea, and we're on about business. Well, what I was explaining in this letter was that particular question, it's non-enforceable, because the judge represents the very same body of men doing the threatening as the one asking if you're threatened, which means that it's non-enforceable. You know, the state can't bring in a judge and say, oh, this judge can ask you if you've been threatened or intimidated. No, if one part of the state threatens you, they all do. If the prosecutor threatens you, that judge is threatening you just as much. So, you know, if the state wanted to enforce a plea bargain, they would have to bring someone in from outside the body of the men that make up the state to ask you if you've been threatened. And if they don't, then guess what? It's not an enforceable plea. And on this particular day, when they got my paperwork, they didn't ask anybody if they've been threatened or intimidated. They just said, we accept your plea. So, and this went on for like another 4 days where the judge just outright, they didn't ask him because they didn't know what to do, right? And so they were just simply saying, oh, we accept your plea. And then after that, after about 4 days, then they came up with the statement. They said, they were asking, are you on drugs or are you high or something along that? Or have you been high in the last 30 days? That was what they were asking for probably 3 weeks. And so at some point in time, you know, all these judges and prosecutors, they all came together. They're like, okay, what should we ask him? Well, if they're high, we can't accept their plea either. So let's ask him that. They didn't know what to do, you know, because I called him out on the dress item, and so they stopped doing it. And obviously that's because they agree with it. But the problem is that, you know, we're going to see this on record. I mean, I have a master's in information security. God had me do that for a very specific reason too, and that's because I'm not concerned about the evidence, right? This evidence is in electronic form. We're gonna have access to it. It's in redundant servers. I'm not worried about them. This isn't like some, you know, some back courthouse where they've got, you know, a logbook that's handwritten and they can literally, you know, erase a page and poof, the information's gone. That's not how it works in electronic era, right? We have servers, we have redundancy, we have, you know, so all of this information is stored, and we'll be able to access it and be able to get all the information that we need out of it when it does come time to actually do an investigation on this. But, you know, we will also know when they do make changes to like a transcript, because we see that all the time, guys. They are altering the transcripts all the time, and it's as if they just take it and they're like, what could go bad for us? And they first have the prosecutor read it, and oh, this is going to be bad. You start scrubbing that. Judge, they scrub this, and then all of a sudden you get something that's vastly different from what you remember, but it's been changed. And they're like, well, show me where it says that, right? It doesn't say that. Well, here's the problem with that theory, Judge, is that this is an electronic file, right? It's an electronic file that was created by a person that was typing in that courtroom. That person was typing in the courtroom. They don't have the ability to be able to come up with your delusions and correct all of the words and everything else. So unfortunately for you, Judge, when we go into the file and we go to the base file, because there's always a base file and everything else in an electronic file format, it just kind of builds on top of it. But we'll see what the original, you know, words were, and we'll know that that person didn't have the ability to be able to draw delusions when they're trying to type the words that we made in the courtroom. So we're going to have a fairly decent record of what was actually stated, because that court recorder has done its job and typed it all up. And then we're going to see where the changes were made. And not only that, but we're going to see who did it, because every time you make a change in an electronic document, right, you have to log into the server system, right? So it knows who the user is. We'll have a user ID, but then we'll also know where that user ID actually modified, you know, that electronic data. It will still be there. It's not like it can go away. It's permanently resides within that document, and the electronic data within that document. So I'm not concerned about that. That's why, like, you know, I'm not going to waste my money going out and getting transcripts, because until I'm ready to address the transcript issue, then I'm going to worry about it, right? I'm not going to worry about it, and I don't think you guys should really either, because if we know that they're changing the transcripts, then why mess with them? Why waste your money on them? You know, the truth is that they shouldn't be charging you any money for that. And here's the reason why. The reason why is because the county, who, you know, has that record, the county, they already have a budget. Their budget for paper, their budget for ink, their budget for printers, their budget for facility, electricity, all their budget came out of the property tax. It's already been paid. So all the paperwork has been paid for. All the printers have been paid for. All the ink has been paid for. And so when they say to you, I need you to pay for this, that's actually double billing because they've already billed for services rendered. That paper's already been paid for by the county. It was paid by property tax. So when they come out and say, oh, well, we're going to make you pay again, that's double billing. And that's a fucking crime. And if they put a stamp on it, now it's a fucking federal offense. You know, they're charging for this stuff a second time. It's already been paid for once. And so for them to come in and say, oh, well, now we have to pay for it again. No, we don't, because you've already been paid for it. Even the clerk's time has been paid for. It doesn't matter what that clerk does. If they work 8 hours a day, they're already paid for it. And you know that they're not working 9. You know you're not paying for an extra hour of their time because they don't give a fuck about it. So all they're doing is they're just adding a layer of additional money that they can extort from you and steal from you in an other than lawful manner, because it's already been paid for. All of that's already been paid for. And 2, they're making it so that you guys can't get what you need to be able to have a robust legal argument, because they want to make it as difficult as possible so you don't have as much evidence as you need to be able to beat them. Well, those records aren't the county's records. Those are the people's records. We created those, right? It's our money that paid for it. Remember, if I'm a client for a professional services company, and I'm going to contract with that professional services company, right? And that professional services company is supposed to do a design for me, right? And this design is supposed to be 100 pages long. It's supposed to detail, the drawings for this facility with X, Y, and Z egress and whatever else. So there's an agreement that's in place to perform. And then the professional services company is going to say to me, okay, it's going to cost this much money, right? Hourly rate, and and if we have to go more, negotiate additional rates. We have to. But nonetheless, this is how much it's going to, the workload and the hours that we're going to need to be able to complete that project. Hey, that's fair enough, right? Okay, so the county has a project. The people, okay, county, we need you to set up a courthouse. We need you to set up a judge at that courthouse. We need to hire a prosecutor. And we need a clerk of court that will receive the paperwork, right? But guess what? All of that is all professional services. That's not fucking... We, the people, are paying them to do that job. So the product that's being produced in county, it's not the county's, it's the people's. Because guess what? The people are the ones that pay for that. So if I pay for a design to be done, that design firm can't say, oh, that's our design. You can't have it. No, fuck no, I paid for that. That's mine. Give it to me, right? It's mine. I paid for it. I hired you to make this design. It's the same thing, man. Everything that county has is ours, including the cameras. We paid for that camera, not the fucking county. But what makes the county think that they can keep us from accessing our own equipment, right? See, this is all ass backwards because the county, everything it has is ours. Everything. The building is ours. The fucking paper is ours. The pens are ours. The fucking uniforms are ours. We bought them. It's the people's fucking assets. It's not the county's. And so when they say that we're not going to give it to you, well, that's a product. And same thing with these attorneys, you guys. You guys need to understand that an attorney, right? An attorney is a professional services as well. They're in a professional service position. And with an attorney, they have to provide proof that they've done something, right? So if an attorney says to you, I need 20,000 retainer, right? To get you to the trial, right? So you give him $20,000. He puts it into an account, right? And now you sit in jail. You have no idea what's going on. You can't get in touch with him because he never fucking calls you back, right? And so now all of a sudden he comes back. He's like, hey man, I'm out of money. I'm out of money. Like, fuck, I already gave you 20,000. What'd you do with it? I haven't even seen you for fucking 3 weeks, man. And so the whole point is that these guys, they have to be able to show you what they've done when they bill you. You see, they have to itemize their professional services. If you put $20,000 in their account, they have a billable rate. And that billable rate, it might be $200. It shouldn't be much more than that. In fact, I would say it should be a whole lot less than that, because they're not experts in the law. They're criminals, remember? And they're leading you toward criminality. But this is the thing, remember, they are professional services. They have an hourly rate that they bill at. And they have to prove to you the hours that they've done, right? Working on this project. And they have to show you a tangible product to go with it. Otherwise, that's fraud. You can't just take a bunch of money and say, that's all mine now. No, you have to prove that you use that money. Otherwise, you're just fraudulently applying it to whatever you want. That's not lawful, right? Remember the movie The Firm with Tom Cruise. It's the same concept, right? The lawyers were just taking a whole bunch of money and then they were billing it wherever they want, right? And when you bill clients for services that you didn't provide them, that's fraud. When you put a stamp on it, now it's fucking mail fraud. All of these attorneys, I guarantee you that they can't prove to you the hours that they put onto it. There's no way. No fucking way. Because you haven't even talked to them. You haven't directed them to do anything, right? They haven't prepared any paperwork, right? If they have, it's one page, and maybe that's an hour worth of professional services at the most. And then they haven't contacted you. All that they do is they show up the morning of your omnibus and they go and talk to the prosecutor, and say, what do you want to do? And they say, well, tell him he's going to do fucking 12 years or he's going to go to prison for 20. Then your attorney walks over there and says, well, sorry, guy, but you're gonna have to go to prison for 12 years. Prosecutor's not gonna budge. Motherfucker, you didn't even do anything. So they really only put in like 3 or 4 hours onto your projects, and then they tell you got to pay them $20,000 to still lose and go to prison. So as a professional services group, you can't ask for itemized product. They have to be able to show you that they've done something. And whatever they've done is yours. They can't keep it, which I keep hearing too. These attorneys keep their boxes. Every fucking thing in that box, anything that you created from this money, this pot of money that I gave you is mine, not yours, mine. You give it to me because I paid for it. Not the firm, not the law firm. So all of their paperwork, all that bullshit, it's not theirs, it's yours. You guys should be able to take that back. So why go spend money on a transcript? Don't do it. Don't do it because we're gonna get these counties under control. But first things first, we got to rip out what's in place, put back into the proper place the foundation, Constitution of the United States of America. When we do that, then we're going to see some significant change across this country. Okay, we're going to see major change. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see a couple questions here. Promote the general welfare. Guys, thank you guys so much for the support that you guys have been providing me. This has been incredible, incredible journey for me. I mean, coming from where I was at, I wasn't real happy with who I was, right? Because I wasn't being conducive with, what I was meant to be. I was on the other side, man. I was designing, 8,000 camera systems for airports and shit. And in all of these systems that are intruding on our lives, and I was promoting it and creating these programs that that weren't good, right? That were undermining our liberties and didn't even know it. And but you see, I always knew that I was going to go into federal law enforcement. I knew that. Like when I was in the military in special operations, I spent a couple of years in drug enforcement overseas in Colombia and Panama doing counter drug interdiction. And that was amazing, especially at 17 years old, because that's when I joined the military, a week after I turned 17. And but I thought I wouldn't go into drug enforcement. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And so when I left the military after my 8 years, I already had my first master's. Right, I already had the master's in crime, and I had to bill it to both the FBI and to the DA. I could have went to either one of them. And I'm so glad that I didn't, you guys. I'm so glad that I didn't. Because if I would have never been able to experience what I've experienced being with you guys to understand that the systems, I would have just been a sheep, just like the rest of them. And but now you guys gotta understand, I know how they act. I know what they do because I was with them for so long. And then God brought me over to the right side. He said, no, you need to be over here. You need to protect these people. And so, I was saying the other day to someone that there's a point in time when I think I was on the narcissist spectrum, right? And I don't think it was me. I think it was who I became because of who I chose to serve. You see, my ex-wife was not good. She was not good for me. And I knew that right from the start. I knew when we got married that it was not right. I knew I should have done it, but I did it anyway. There's reasons why I did it, but we're not going to go into that. But nonetheless, I did something that in my heart was telling me don't do it, right? I did it anyway. Remember, guys, there's two different types of sin in the Bible, and let's not get these confused because they're very, very simple. If you know that you should do something and you do it anyway, you're sinning. I knew I shouldn't have done it, and I did it anyway. Okay, anything that's produced from what I did when I knew I shouldn't have done it anyway, it's my fault. I can't blame anybody else for it, because if I produced something sinful from it, love, whatever that might be, that's on me, man. I knew I shouldn't have done it. My heart told me not to do it, and I did it anyway. Okay, so yeah, it's painful, but at the end of the day, it was that pain that's gotten me to the place I'm at today. So without that, I wouldn't be the man that I am. So being angry at my ex-wife, or being angry at the court or the judge for what they've done, no. They were simply doing what they needed to do to get me here doing the things I'm doing now to help all of you, because that was what they had to do. But they're going to have to acknowledge their crimes, because if they don't, then we're going to have to hold them accountable. I'm trying to draw them back and say, hey, you guys, we're going to work together, because this is why. Because because to understand, so they say that to find your purpose, or your passion, to find your passion, you can't have money to do it, right? First off, you can't have money, and you can't have assets, because you don't find your passion until you don't have anything left, right? Because what you're passionate about, you'll do even when there is no money, because you love it so much, right? You just continue doing it because you just love it that much. And the thing about doing it like that is that typically what scares you, when you turn to it and you choose to do it, whatever it is that scares you, then you actually get addicted to it, right? That's why people get addicted to like skydiving and these other things, is that they're scared to death. They don't want to do it. But the moment that they jump off and they feel that rush, then they get addicted to that rush, right? I got addicted to this, right? This scared the fuck out of me, man. I mean, they were trying to lock me up for 20 years for talking to my wife. It made no sense. Like, they were stealing everything from me. And it scared me to do this, but as I did it, I got addicted to it, right? And now it doesn't scare me. Now it empowers me, right? It gives me energy. But they say you found your passion when you will continue doing that thing when there is no money, because you love it that much. If it were about money, then when the money goes away or the job goes away, then you'll just go find another job. That's not a passion. That's just fucking, that's just status quo. Going wherever the money's at. So you actually have to have nothing. I had to lose everything in order to get to a place where I was able to find my passion. I would have never found this. This is not what I would have ever thought that I was wanting to do. This is not the life that I ever would have envisioned myself living. Out here fighting, for the country, and I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be, I just want to be, in the back and doing writing papers and dissertations and stuff that nobody ever reads. But no, I mean, I had to step up and do this because we had to do it. Someone had to do it. But so then when you find your passion and you choose to give that to other people, that is your purpose now. That's your purpose. So when you choose to take what you're passionate about, what you don't get paid to do, and you're going to do it because it just is so fucking awesome. It's so consistent with who you are, and then you choose to give that to other people, that is your purpose. So this is my purpose. It absolutely is. And so when I saw that this was my purpose, when I saw that this was my purpose, then that means that I'm going to get to that place, right? God's already made a promise. He's going to see it through. Everything we've done has been, even when I didn't know I was right, we were right consistently. And there's nothing that's going to stop this. Nothing. It's going to be accomplished. And it's not an if, it's a win. It's a win. And so when I saw that this was my purpose, I just knew that I knew that there was going to be good things and bad things that were going to have to happen. I knew that there was going to be times that were going to be more difficult, times that were going to be easier, but nonetheless there were a whole bunch of things that were going to have to happen to reach that point. It's called the theory of the butterfly effect. And so that theory is that something as simple as a flicker of a butterfly's wing in China can cause this cataclysmic chain of events that would ultimately lead to a tidal wave. And in Los Angeles. And so what the whole theory says is that there's just a whole bunch of chain of events. They all have to happen, right? And they're all interlinked and intertwined to produce this outcome. And so, something as simple as a butterfly wing taken off in China off of a cherry tree, that right there can create such a disruption from that leaf that it will drop of water off of it. And that drop of water can cause this cataclysmic chain of events that will ultimately lead to this tidal wave in California. But the thing is that you have to have every single event. Everything must happen in sequence. Because if it doesn't, then you have a different ending. So you have to be able to see and envision the ending in order to be able to get through it, right? So once you're able to envision, the place, once you're able to see, okay, this is where we're going, this is the final destination, then we know that there's going to be all kinds of events that's going to have to happen, right? I mean, there's going to be appeals, there's going to be submissions, there's going to be arrests, there's going to be, fucking assholes talking. There's going to be all these things that's going to happen, but they have to happen. They have to. Because if we take any one of them out, we got a different ending. And so once you see the vision, once you see the ending, once you know the destination, then you know what? There's nothing that can stop you from reaching that destination. Because you know what we're going to get there. It doesn't matter what people say about you. It doesn't matter what people steal from you. It doesn't matter what people do to you. None of it's going to matter, because in the end, you're going to reach victory. You're going to be at that place, right? Because we're going to reach that destination. Because God's already given that vision. Because I knew this years ago. I knew this 9 years ago. When I first started this, I knew I was going to win it at the very beginning. Because God gave me some paperwork in the beginning that was meant to be used at the end, right? I prayed after I got arrested on November 11th, right? And I prayed on November 13th and said, God, please let me do this. Deliver us from the evil that we ourselves have become. I prayed on that day, and then on Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving morning, I woke up and I wrote three documents. 3. I didn't know what they were. I had no clue, but they were amazing. I'm like, well, this is fucking awesome. I don't know what they are, but I'm gonna submit them as a motion to dismiss because they're so fucking awesome. I don't know, but I think that's what they're for. I didn't know what they were. So the first document was the letter of introduction. The letter of introduction. And I wrote it just word by word, line by line. I never added to it, never detracted from it. I never proofread it. I never wrote it a second time. I wrote it one time and only one time, word for word. And now I have it memorized. And a lot of people ask me about my memory too. And you guys, one thing you need to remember is that when the prophets were around, when Jesus was around, the scribes, they had to actually learn entire books of the Bible. Like there were scribes that knew word for word the entire book of Genesis, because they couldn't carry the book with them. Because if they did, then they'd get killed, right? You get caught in possession of that in the wrong place and they would kill you. So they had to memorize it. They had to memorize entire books, because if they didn't, they would lose the information. They would lose it. And so God taught them how to have this memory where they could retain all this information so that they could go into a place where, people would come in and steal and burn their books and everything else. But when they get to their destination, then they would pull out a piece of paper and they'd write out the book of Genesis so that everybody can read it and have it at that end. And then they go to the next place and write it all out so they can have it at that place, right? And so it was the memory that preserved the word, right? Because if they didn't have the memory, they wouldn't be preserved. And the same thing happened with me, because every single time I was starting to get ahead, they would put me on a bus, move me to a different facility or something, and I'd lose all my paperwork. But guess what? I have it in my head. As soon as I get to that place, I just pull out some paper and start writing it all back up. And I'd share with everybody there. So the letter of introduction was the first. The second was this outline. It was like 3-page outline of a class action lawsuit. Remember, like at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea, because I thought it was still just isolated to me. I didn't know. I certainly didn't know it was other states, because guys, I'm in prison. I can't even look up any of this. Like I'm only going off of what I know, and what I know is that the state of Washington has a provision in its constitution that functions directly contrary. Why is it that I didn't get it? I have no clue that Connecticut doesn't do it, or Oklahoma doesn't do it, or Michigan doesn't do it. I just knew that Washington didn't do it. So I built a case against Washington. Became the primary respondent, the first petitioner. First petitioner is the one that's going to carry the rest of the petitioners. So I built this case and all paperwork. But I wrote the lawsuit paperwork in the beginning. I wrote the class action suit in the beginning, long before I did anything else. There were 3 classes within it, 3 classes of people. One is anyone either now or previously charged with a crime by the United States justice system or system subjected to the jurisdiction thereof. So anybody charged with a crime by the United States justice system or a system subjected to its jurisdiction, which would be all the state justice systems, that would be class number 1. You're not guilty, but they still deprive you of your rights when they charge you with a crime when they had no authority to do so, right? So that would be the first class. You're going to get all your liberties restored. Take you back to the place that you were before they broke the law, before they charged you with a crime. Take you back to that place and give you back your liberties that was taken from you without lawful authority at that point. Okay. Class number 2 is anyone either now or previously convicted of a crime by the United States justice system or system subjected to the jurisdiction thereof. So if you're found guilty, through a sham process known as a plea bargain, then you would be the second group, and you would then be brought back to your original liberty, the point in which your rights were taken from you without lawful authority by the state. They have to restore you to that point. We don't get compensation. You can't ask for compensation. You guys will have to do that later. All we're doing is showing that you guys had a right because someone had a duty, and when they broke the law, breached that duty, we must have that restored. It's a judicial relief. Okay. Once we show the judicial relief, then you guys get your liberty restored, and then you guys can go out and seek your injunctive relief for whatever damages they caused, you and your family or whatever else. That's not what I do. I don't deal with money. That's what attorneys do. You can fuck with them all you want. I'm doing the first part. Okay, I'm doing the crime. Once you do the crime, then you can play with attorneys all you want. Okay. And the third group does not include persons convicted of a crime by a jury of one's peers. However, individual victimization appeal may be warranted. So if you were found guilty, legally, lawfully, consistent with the procedure processes, we have a constitution. I'm not an abolitionist, right? I believe in the system as much as the American people do. And if you commit a crime and society has dictated that you're a danger to society because of that crime, then you can be put into prison. You can be put into a place where we're going to protect you and heal you so that we can return you back to a state of liberty. Think about Sweden. Sweden is shutting down their last prison right now because they chose to heal their aberrant behavior through healing and through treatment, as opposed to us deciding we're just going to take them and throw them into a fucking institution and treat them like shit, tell them that they're shit, label them as a shit for the rest of their life, and then also make it so that they can't make shit either. Thus, they aren't a cycle of shit. And so, but we're the only nation that chose to do that. Every other nation chose restorative justice. We chose punitive justice. And we wonder why we have 16 times more prisoners than the closest industrialized nation. We have it because we went the wrong fucking direction, and the whole rest of the world went the other way. And then we want to talk about our amazing criminal justice system, like, oh, we've got the best justice system. The fuck we do. We don't even have a justice system. We have a enslavement system, man. It's not justice. Justice is built upon just principles of all men being equal. So when you create these laws and say, well, yeah, the state can create a law that says, yep, you can give a grand jury to this guy, not to this guy. Or you can create a law that says, oh, all men are created equal, but guess what? Not women, because women aren't men, and thus women aren't. Come on now. These are the things that we've done for 200 years. Did you know that it wasn't until 1978 that women were recognized by the Constitution? Because the men said, oh, that's a woman, not a man. Therefore, she's not protected by the Constitution. Didn't God say, said, let us create man in our image, in the image of us? He created them male and female. Therefore, man is in the image of male and female. And yet, that wasn't argued. Why wasn't it argued? Because of the 15,000 people that have served on our Congress and have worked in those halls, only 3% of them have been minority or women. And of that 3%, 50% of them are serving right now today. That means that 97% of our Congress were white men. And you wonder why women wouldn't have a voice, or why black would have a voice, because we had white men. That's what we had, and they were the ones that were pushing their agenda. That's also the reason why I don't want to make the same mistake that their founders did, because when we do what we're going to do, when we accomplish what we're going to accomplish here, I want to come in, not me. I'm going to just be part of the team, right? But I want us to be a team. I want key players. I want the demographics that represent society, because I don't know what a woman needs. So we need women there standing with us, talking about what because they're gonna want to know these things, right? We're gonna have to talk about, what got us to this place. What's your experience, and we got to be the ones to provide the recommendation to the legislation that's gonna have to go into place over the next 10, 20 years, while we're putting into place new civil rights acts that are going to be focused on making sure that this never happens again. First things first, we're going to win in that court. Once we win in that court, then we need to have a team together that's already cohesive, that represents the people, because I don't know what Native Americans need. I don't know what Black people need. I know what a white man needs, and I'll speak for the white man. They're already spoken for, right? But we need all these demographics, right? And so that's what our founders failed on. They didn't bring in all these other people that would be representing people. And then they said, well, yeah, we know what women need, or we know what gays need, or, you need to involve them. You need to bring them in, and they should have been part of the team. So, I think that whatever we do here moving forward, we need to make sure we have the best of these individuals already identified. They need to be camera ready. They can't be, what's the word? Mentally, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so we got to have sound mind. You got to be camera ready, and so no, I'm going to be vetting these people quite seriously, and I apologize if you aren't selected, but this is going to be a very, very critical group of people that I'm going to be putting together here. And so I've got a few already identified. Alice, I think, is over here on Facebook. She is a bail bondsman out of Indianapolis, Indiana. She's a constitutional sheriff. She's amazing, and she's going to be representing the women, white women, I would assume, but nonetheless, she's already identified. And we have Senator Arnold out of Georgia. He'll be representing Black, and so we want to identify those people. They need to be camera ready, and then we're gonna bring them together. Have a few meetings ahead of time so we can work out our own issues, so we can come in with a unified front when they do ask us to actually approach Congress with a remedy for all this. But we were talking about the remedy the other day, because everybody's also saying, well, yeah, but they're not going to do anything unless they know what to do. We already know what to do, right? I'm not. We do have the remedy. We do have what we want. But with the judicial relief, with the habeas, we can't ask for anything. All we can ask for is restore the liberties that was taken. But we can't ask for anything more. So we don't need a remedy, right? They need it, because what they're saying right now is they're saying, oh, this is too big of a deal. Like, oh, this is huge. It's way too big, and we can't do this. We can't do it all at once. Because, well, the problem I have is that government, you caused this. This was your decisions. You broke the law. And so to say to us that you can't, this is too big to fix now, that doesn't sit well with me, right? Because that means that you're justifying your criminal behavior in order to continue to do it, and that's not okay. Government, you caused this. You put us into this situation. You didn't follow the law. You didn't understand the law, and as a result, our people are suffering because of your oppression and tyranny. And so when you say to me, this is too big, we can't fix this, or this is too big, I'm going to say, no, it's not, because you caused this. So it doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter how long you've done it or how many times it's been done. You did this. It's your fault. You're not going to blame the people for it and continue to do it. So all we need at this point in time, is we need one good media interview. If I got one good regional media interview, I think that will be enough to set this on fire. I do. And I am still in Oklahoma, you guys. I have $11 in my account. I'm not going to ask you for money, because I'm fucking pissed about these assholes that are coming behind me here, especially people that I trusted to be a part of my team that's now stealing from all of you. But they'll have to answer to God on this one. But I can't get out of here. Got $11 in my account, so I'll be out of here as soon as I can. That's all I can say. There is nothing here. There's no bus station, no train station, no Uber, no cabs. This is kind of a rough place to be. So, but we're making the most of it. Yeah. This is my last night here at this hotel. So I don't have money again. So tomorrow, I could quite possibly be heading down to the truck stop and trying to hitchhike out. But nonetheless, if you guys want to help, you guys know, go to the website, help out. We definitely need the help. You guys know people that can help. We need help. Okay. So we need one good media interview. That's it. And a lot of this has been practicing for that. You know, I mean, I knew all along that just like the Bible says, that he'll always take you the long way around. Because if he would have taken the Israelites straight to the promised land, then they wouldn't have learned how to fight or learned how to have long faith or whatever. So he had to take them a long way around. That's why they had to wander through the desert, before they got to the promised land. Because God has a lot of things that he has to teach you first before you go to that battle. And so, this was the long way around. But I knew that if I went straight through, I knew I was right. I knew from the very beginning that I was right, but I didn't have the argument, right? I was not prepared at all. I thought I was, but hell no. I was an idiot back then. But it was going through this desert. It was going through prison and jail and having these people over and over and over again challenge, my thinking, and me having to respond and build these narratives and these talking points, and then coming out here and spending the last few weeks sharing it constantly with you. That's why I said in the beginning that their silence, it's not a detriment, it's an advantage, because it gives me the opportunity to be able to fine tune my argument. Every day it gets better and better. Every day you guys make it better and better. And every day it probably gets clearer and clearer to you too. And so this is the benefit for all of us, because it's preparing me for this, and it's preparing me in such a way that they can't even do anything about it. Because if they did, they'd make a martyr. That would only increase their opposition. Or if they did, then that would only arrest me and increase their opposition. It would only prove the case. So they can't do anything. Even if the Supreme Court justices can't. When I talk about Thomas, I'm like, okay, if you don't step up and do it, then your fate's on your hands. That's not a threat. All I'm doing is saying that's what the law says. That's prescribed by law. I can speak the truth. That's the truth. I'm not saying anything wrong. So if I were to be arrested for perhaps threatening someone of that nature, then I would take it to trial. And all I'd have to do is say to the jury, he has an obligation. He didn't do it. And because he didn't do it, he is what I say that he is. And if that's true, then you must find me not guilty. And when they find me not guilty because it is true, they're finding me not guilty because they will have found him to be a traitor. Because by my not guilty, they would have agreed that he's a traitor. Therefore, now I can say, okay, arrest him. Because now the jury is just... So my plan all along with these trials were to use the petit jury as a means to actually bring in a grand jury, right? Be able to use it as an opportunity to point out the criminality of the government, use that as my justification for my self-defense, right? And doing so, if the jury agrees with me, then by finding me not guilty, they will found me not guilty because they will have determined that a crime was committed by a public officer. That was my strategy all along, and it was going to work. That's why the judge did not allow me to call any witnesses during my trial. No witnesses at all, including myself. He would not let me testify. He wouldn't let me get on stand and testify. Now, the state had one witness, Jennifer, my ex. You know what she said? She said, I don't know why you're doing this, right? She said 4 things on that stand. She said, I don't know why you're doing this. He didn't do anything wrong. I don't want this. And I don't want to be here testifying, but the state is making me. Those are the 4 things that she said. That's the summary of her whole entire testimony was, I don't want this. I don't know why you're doing it. He didn't do anything wrong, and I don't want to be here testifying, but the state is making me. As a wife, non-compellable, I don't want to be here, but the state is making me. Those were her exact same words. She said exactly what she needed to say, because the whole point there is that she's not accusing me of anything, right? Where's my accuser? She's not accusing me of anything. She didn't call you guys. We were in a car. Go take her kids to fucking Subway. She's not accusing me of nothing. Nothing. And she said on the stand, he didn't do anything wrong. So, for me to manifest exactly what we need to be able to show what happens with the absence of the indictment of grand jury, what happens with the trial by affidavit, I've done it. I did. I made it happen during the trial, right? Because when you have a trial by affidavit, your accuser, or an affidavit and you're charged by it, your right to confront your accuser evaporates because you can't put that information on stand and cross-examine it. Where's my indictment? You tell me she's accusing me of a crime. She wasn't accusing me of anything. State, you were. And that's why when I tried to testify, I tried 4 separate times. First time I tried to step up on the stand, judge said, "Oh no, you can't testify." I said, "Why not?" He said, "I don't have to give you a reason why not." I said, "That's a crime, you know that, right?" And he said, "I know. State of Washington gives me the right. I'm immune and sovereign. You can't challenge me." and so I tried a second time to step into the booth, and he said again, "No, you cannot testify." And I don't remember what I said then, but I tried a third time, and when he denied me a third time, that's when I said that I have evidence that I demand this court hears, and any attempt to prevent this evidence from coming forth is a crime. He said, "You will not present that evidence." And then I tried to step on a fourth time, final time. And when he wouldn't allow me to do it, then I said, I pointed at the prosecutor, and I said, "My wife wasn't accusing me of anything. The only person in this room that's accusing me of someone is that prosecutor, and yet you tell me I can confront her." I said, "Who is my accuser? Because I can't defend myself against nothing." Those are the words that I said. And those are the words we need to be able to show exactly what this issue is. What's happened to all of you, I made it happen during trial. In the words of the trial, going back and forth with the judge, where the judge says, "I can break the law, I can keep you from testifying," all this bias and bullshit. And then after the fourth warning that I gave him, 4 times that judge was warned that you do not have the right to deny me the ability to testify and defend myself. And yet he did 4 separate times. After being warned 4 times that he was committing a crime, that's when I pointed to the court recorder and I said, "I hereby enact my right to citizen's arrest against him for obstruction of justice, knowingly and willingly engaging in criminal behavior." And it was crickets in the courtroom at that point. Because remember, guys, I served in the military. I have an oath. That oath is perpetual, self-executing. When I encounter someone that's warring against the Constitution domestically, I have an obligation to do something about it. And when he tells me that he's not going to obey the Constitution of the United States, I must step up and I must enforce the laws of the United States against him that's warring against him. So what's going to happen here is that the only thing that's in question is that order for arrest. Is that a valid order for arrest? 100% it is, because I gave him 4 separate chances to stop and quit committing crimes, and he knowingly and willingly continued to do it. In fact, his very first response to the court was, when I said, "That's a crime," he said, "I can do that. State of Washington gives me the right." He said, "I can break the law. State of Washington gives me the right." He acknowledged to the court that he was committing crime, but he believed that he was immune from it because of his absolute impunity. That's not how absolute immunity works. If you engage in criminal behavior, you're accountable for the crimes that you commit. When you deny a person their constitutional right to confront their accusers or to testify or to call witnesses, you just fucked up because you are knowingly taking away a right that's already been incorporated that you must enforce, and yet he did it. I had 250 witnesses that were ready to call down in the jail, and he said, "You won't call any of them." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, I get to choose what the best use of this time is, and I don't think that's a good use of this court's time." I don't give a fuck about it. Because remember, guys, I was my own attorney. I was pro se. I was acting as my own attorney because I didn't trust in these motherfuckers. Not a chance. So because of that, I get to choose who the witnesses are. How many judges get to say, "Oh no, attorney whoever that was hired"? How does a judge get to impose his judicial opinion on the validity of the evidence that the party brings, right? I had the right to testify. I had the right to call witnesses, and both of those were taken away by this judge who had no authority to do it because he couldn't. The only person that could even initiate a blocking of or an injunction against my witnesses would be the prosecutor, and she didn't say a fucking thing because at this point in time she's like, I don't want to be a part of this. She even stood up and said that I believe this is a mistrial, and that judge just kept pushing right out to her, didn't even acknowledge her. But she said, "Oh, this is a mistrial." No, it's not a mistrial. because the question is whether or not that order for arrest is going to be valid, and it will be. It will absolutely be valid, which means that judge Ekstrom was under arrest, not from the moment that it's deemed valid, but from the moment that I ordered it, because I caught him committing a felony 4 different times. I warned him to stop doing it, and he chose to knowingly and willingly engage in that criminal behavior, and therefore I had no choice but to defend myself and my country against his acts of judicial abuse. And that's by ordinance arrest under Citizens Arrest Authority for the power vested in me because of the oath that I've taken to enforce the laws of the United States against those that are warring against them domestically and foreign. So when I encountered this, I actually was operating in the federal realm because my authority is under the federal constitution, the federal. His is only under the state. So my oath would actually be superior to his. So when I caught him, refusing to enforce the federal laws, then great, you're under arrest. And it was ordered. It's on record. And I also had 12 of my friends that were sitting in the crowd that day, watching from church. So we had a great little group of witnesses as well, besides just the record itself. But if that's true, then the question then would be, if the judge was under arrest at that moment, then who was sitting on the bench when that jury came back and said guilty? Was it? The judge was gone. He was under arrest, which means that there wasn't a judge that was sitting on my bench when that jury came back and said guilty. I'm not guilty of anything, right? And normally they would bring in a different sentencing judge. That's what they do, right? They bring in a different sentencing judge. They do that because they want to bring in a second judge that will sentence you, and that judge is acting under good faith that the trial judge acted constitutionally. That way, if it's determined that the Constitution was breached by the trial judge, then the sentencing judge can say, oh, but I acted under good faith to sentence him, therefore sentencing is valid. That's why they bring in these different judges for different points to try to make it so that, oh, if they fucked up over here, then great, this guy didn't fuck up because this one's just acting under good faith. It's not valid, but that's what they're doing. However, this particular day, Judge Ekstrom, the moment that I was found not guilty, before that jury was even out the door, he said, are you ready to sentence him? And because they didn't want me out, because if I would have gotten out and went and talked to my 12 church friends that were there, they probably I would have never been back in. That was the last thing I wanted. Plus, I was telling a lot of people about how they overcome the system from within the jail. I'm in a pod of 200 people, and I'm telling 200 people how to address this. They wanted me on that bus to prison as quickly as possible. And so Ekstrom, he received a recommendation from the prosecutor, right? As the jury's walking out the door, there's no time, nothing. And that prosecutor says, Your Honor, I recommend 2 years. Judge says, I'll take it. You're going to prison for 2 years. So there was no waiting, no considering sentence, nothing. It was just get on that fucking bus and get out of here. But that would mean that the sentencing was also done by someone that didn't have the authority to order it, which means that the trial, at the moment I ordered the arrest, because the judge committed the crime, there's no judge. Therefore, when the jury came back, there's no decision. And therefore, when that prosecutor stood up and recommended to this person that's now fucking under arrest for a felony, and recommended that person, now kidnap me without lawful authority because he has no authority to detain me anymore because he's fucking under arrest for a felony. Now, when he ordered for me to be detained, well, now we've got conspiracy with the prosecutor. We've got misprision of felony by the prosecutor. We've got the prosecutor standing up and saying, well, I believe it's a mistrial, so indication of irregularities, and yet you continue to allow this to proceed. Ms. Ruff, you're just as guilty as him because, you know what, you should have stepped up and you should have fucking held him accountable for the crimes he committed. The crimes that you clearly said existed when you stood up and said, I believe this is a mistrial. Why would it be a mistrial unless fucking judge? Anyway, you guys can figure that out. Ruff and Ekstrom, you guys can prepare whatever story you want. But there's some paperwork that exists in that electronic file format that you guys are fucking cooked. And I've never told anybody about it, and I'm not going to tell you now. But let me just say that what you said in that appeal, your response to the appeal, Mr. Ekstrom, Mr. fucking Judge Ekstrom, guess what? What you stated is going to fucking put the noose around your neck. Because what you stated is going to show the crime you committed, because you forgot one very, very important piece. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna make it suspenseful. Okay, so we're gonna keep that close to the chest. But I would go out and take a look there. Maybe you can come up with it, Mr. Ekstrom. Maybe you can come up with it. I applaud you if you do, but I don't think you will. I don't think you're that smart. All right, guys, I'm gonna go and go. But we'll try to do a live first thing in the morning before I get out of here. I would love to be down in Texas tomorrow night, at least in Dallas. I did make a bunch of calls out to out to the Univision and Telemundo and stuff, and we'll wait and see. But I like the narrative. I like what we were starting to say, and I think we'll get an audience with a couple of the producers. I called like 7 different stations today, all the way over to Miami as well, and so we'll see who wants to bite, who wants to set up a meeting with their producer, and we'll get to those meetings. Okay. Thank you guys so much. God bless. Please continue to like, follow, share. Please donate if you can. Do that through the website, www.tanawah.com, TANAWAH.com. And thank you guys so much for everything you guys have done, faith you give me, and the reason to get out here and fight once again. Thank you guys so much. God bless. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you so much, man. Thank you guys. 848 viewers. All right, YouTube. Thank you so much. God bless.